Okay, so when you think about global betting, what comes to mind? Probably Vegas, right? Maybe London? Well, forget all that. The biggest revolution in the game isn't happening in those glitzy casinos. Nope, it's this quiet, almost invisible shift, and it's all powered by a single, tiny number that is literally changing everything. So let me ask you, what do you think is the most powerful force in global betting today? I can pretty much guarantee it's not what you're thinking. It's actually a super simple idea, one that has quietly built this massive bridge connecting millions and millions of new people to the world of online betting. And the answer? It's something called micro-staking. We're talking about the ability to place bets for just pennies or even single cents. I know, it sounds, well, insignificant, right? But believe me, this one tiny change has unlocked a market on a scale that's almost hard to wrap your head around. The best way to think about it is like an invisible bridge. It's connecting folks everywhere, from Dar es Salaam all the way to Mumbai, to platforms that they were completely locked out of before. So in this explainer, we're going to dig into how that bridge was built, and maybe more importantly, what happens when millions of people start crossing it every single day. Right, so how on earth can a business built on pennies even work? Well, it all comes down to one simple economic idea: the barrier to entry. Just take a look at this comparison. For a lot of us in a higher income market, a $1 bet, that's nothing, right? It's pocket change. You don't even think about it. But in many, many parts of the world, that same dollar can be a pretty big chunk of someone's daily disposable income. It's not just a casual bet, it's a real financial decision. And so for decades, that standard $1 minimum bet, it acted like an economic drawbridge. It was pulled up, effectively shutting out the vast majority of the world's population from these huge global betting platforms. But then, this happened. By dropping the stakes down to as low as a single cent, these companies didn't just make betting a little cheaper. No, they completely democratized access on a massive global scale. Suddenly, the market wasn't just Europe and North America anymore. It was the entire planet. Okay, so that's the economics. But this is where it gets really fascinating. This whole thing isn't just about market access. It's also an absolutely incredible feat of behavioral science, specifically designed to build a really powerful user habit. The real genius of micro-staking is how frictionless the habit loop is. Think about it. You open the app, you check the odds, you place a tiny, tiny bet, and then you wait for that little dopamine hit when you see the outcome. It's simple, it's fast, and it's designed to become a daily ritual, something you just do. You might be wondering, why would a company even bother with a bet that makes them a fraction of a cent in profit? Well, look at this. The profit from any one bet is, it's tiny. It's almost nothing. The real value, we're talking 95% of it, comes from the sheer massive volume of bets and the long-term sticky habit it creates in users. And this quote from our source material just sums it up perfectly. It says, "Micro-staking transforms the act of betting into a casual entertainment expense, almost like buying a single chewing gum. When the cost is that low, the psychological barrier to placing a bet, it just completely plummets." Now, of course, none of this would even be possible without the right technology to back it up. We're talking about mobile-first betting platforms and, crucially, these advanced mobile money systems like M-Pesa. They created the perfect ecosystem for all these tiny, rapid-fire microtransactions to happen. Traditional banks, they just can't keep up with this kind of volume and speed. Okay, but this invisible bridge, it casts a long shadow. For all of its business brilliance, and it is brilliant, this model also creates a new and really complex set of risks for the people using it. And that brings us to a really crucial question. When you make the act of placing a bet feel totally insignificant, what's the real cost? What happens to a person when all those psychological guardrails that stop us from making big, risky bets are just removed? This table really lays out the two sides of that coin. What's a huge benefit for the provider can be a massive risk for the user. So for the company, you have massive transaction volume. For the user, that means lowered psychological inhibition. The company gets powerful habit formation. The user can get into a dangerous cycle of chasing losses with bets that feel too small to matter, until, of course, they add up. And all this can lead to a really dangerous phenomenon called micro-debt. So what is that? It's the slow accumulation of all these tiny, seemingly invisible losses that stack up and stack up and stack up, into a larger, often crippling sum of debt, sometimes before the person even realizes what's happening. And just look at how quickly this can spiral. A single 5-cent bet? That's nothing. Who cares, right? But what if you placed 50 of those in a day? Suddenly, that's $2.50. And over a month, that's $75. Now, for many people, that is a really significant unplanned expense, and it all came from these individual little bets that felt completely meaningless in the moment. So, where do we go from here? The invisible bridge, it's built. It's here to stay. Millions of people are crossing it every single day, and the entire industry has been fundamentally changed forever. So what's next? What does the future hold? Well, the conversation has to evolve. It just has to. For years, the whole focus was on access, on getting more people onto these platforms. But now, as this market matures, the focus really has to shift from how many people can bet to how safely they can do it. And here's the final thought I want to leave you with. The technology behind all this is only getting smarter and smarter. So, what happens when AI starts to personalize the minimum stake? Not for every group of players, but for every single player, optimizing it second by second, not for your safety, but for their maximum engagement and profit? That's the next frontier. And it's a question we all really need to start thinking about.